So have you ever had one of those dreams that just felt, I don't know, undeniably real, like maybe more vivid, more intense, just more there than your actual waking life? The kind of moment that can, stick with you days, weeks, even years. It leaves you wondering, was that really just my imagination? Today we're taking a deep dive into exactly these kinds of hyper-real dream experiences. Now, advanced practitioners of neuroscience, they do offer some compelling explanations for, well, the sheer vividness we sometimes feel. But there seems to be this profound, this really persistent gap in understanding why. Why do these specific dreams linger? Why do they impact us so deeply? And why do they often leave us feeling like we've actually glimpsed something, more real than reality itself? Our mission today really is to unpack this fascinating phenomenon. We want to move beyond the conventional explanations and explore a truly different understanding of existence, maybe. We'll be drawing on a pretty remarkable personal journey and an extraordinary metaphysical perspective. We really want to get at what these dreams might truly be revealing about, well, the fundamental nature of reality itself. Sort of challenging our everyday assumptions, opening doors to new possibilities. We're going to follow the experience of someone named Phillip. His too real to ignore dream was just so impactful. It really set him on this profound path, a path to understanding that his nightly visions were far, far more than just, random brain activity.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how readily we often just dismiss dreams.
Right.
Like they're mere illusions, just products of an overactive subconscious, maybe. Yet the consistent human experience, you see this across cultures, across generations, it points to something far grander potentially being at play. Something that profoundly challenges our very definition of what is real.
Absolutely. And I think most of us can probably relate to that on some level. I certainly remember dreams that have stayed with me for ages. And, it's widely believed that most people have had at least one dream that felt genuinely hyper-real, where the sensations were just sharper, the colors may be brighter, the emotions utterly unforgettable. That feeling, right? That undeniable sort of qualitative difference, the thing that sets these experiences apart from your average, just fleeting dream. Now, if we look at this through a scientific lens, advanced practitioners of neuroscience have observed some really interesting activity during REM sleep. They've noted that our brain's amygdala, that's our emotion center, it really fires up. Intense activity. And at the same time, sensory regions of the brain just light up, creating the sensation of vividness. So this neurobiological activity, it definitely helps explain how we experience strong emotions and incredibly detailed imagery in dreams. It's our brain doing its thing, right? Creating a very convincing internal world.
And that's a good starting point, absolutely, for understanding the mechanics of it.
Right.
But those who actively explore these states, they discover that the scientific explanation, while, accurate in its observations, it leaves a crucial gaping hole in our understanding.
A gap, yeah.
It doesn't fully account for the profound after effects of these specific dreams, why they linger with such emotional weight, why they can impact our mood, our thoughts, our whole day.
Yeah.
Maybe for days afterwards.
Right.
It really doesn't explain why they often feel more vivid, more tangible, almost more real than our actual waking reality. It's almost like they've left a genuine imprint, a memory that feels different from other memories. The brain might be showing us vivid images, sure, but why does this particular dream resonate so deeply? Why does it challenge our very concept of what's real?
Precisely. It's that lasting imprint, that undeniable feeling that we really want to delve into today. And this is exactly where Philip's journey becomes just incredibly illustrative. His early experiences with dreams that felt, unbelievably real. They serve as a perfect, relatable example of this too real to ignore sensation. He really found himself grappling with that very gap we're talking about, that chasm between the scientific explanation and his own personal, undeniable, deeply impactful experience. He wasn't just having strange dreams. He was having dreams that fundamentally made him question his perception of what reality even was. Okay, so let's break this down a bit further. Imagine a dream so sharp, so detailed, so utterly unforgettable, it just changes everything you thought you knew about consciousness. For Philip, this dream didn't start with a jolt or anything. It sort of slowly faded into view, and then all at once, he was just there, alone, in what looked like a very long, very opulent hallway.
And the detail you mentioned, the sensory richness, it's truly remarkable, isn't it?
It really is.
Most of us might think, our brains are just making it up with this kind of imagery, just random firings. But what does this initial unfiltered vividness, even before Philip consciously realizes he's dreaming, suggest about the potential source of the experience?
That's a great question.
Well, this is precisely that gap we mentioned earlier. Neuroscience can explain vividness to a degree, sure, but it really struggles with this level of sustained, coherent, completely novel detail. From a, let's say, metaphysical perspective, this suggests a more direct perception. Almost as if Philip's consciousness, even passively at first, was already kind of tuning into a real, albeit maybe unfamiliar, environment.
Like tuning a radio.
Exactly. The brain isn't just generating, perhaps it's receiving. Much like a radio tuning into a distant signal that's already there. It's not concocting, it's perceiving.
Fascinating. Okay, so let's get into the specifics then. What exactly did Philip perceive in this incredibly real dream state? He found himself standing on these black and white marble tiles. They checkerboarded a wide, mostly empty corridor. And the air around him, it felt incredibly warm, like a perfect late spring day, when the air's still kind of brisk and fresh, but the sun just comfortably warms your skin. Sunlight was streaming through these enormous leaded glass windows that ran the entire length of the right side of the hallway, casting these straight, bright beams diagonally onto the opposite wall and floor. And the light was filtered, broken up into different sizes by this really flourishing dark green ivy. It was growing on a heavy iron trellis just outside the window. So the entire right side was just these floor-to-ceiling windows stretching all the way down, stopping just above some elegant, sort of understated wooden furniture against the wall.
That's incredibly specific detail.
It really is. And the ceiling was extraordinarily lofty, easily 40 feet high, maybe more. It created this immediate sense of vastness, making Philip feel very small, even though he was actually slightly tall for his age. And there was this profound, peaceful calm filling the place, almost tangible. The only sound he could hear was the soft, rhythmic click of his own few, cautious footsteps echoing in the silence. He thought about calling out, maybe, but he had this instinctual feeling that it would be wrong somehow, like an intrusion that would just disturb the profound stillness of the place.
Sense of reverence, almost.
Exactly. And occasionally, he'd step directly into one of these rays of light, and it shone blindingly into his eyes, making him squint. But the warmth on his skin was just undeniable, comforting. And the air. It smelled fresh and clean, not like any indoor air he had ever known before. He tried to peer out the windows, but it was tricky, partly because of the dense ivy covering half the glass, partly because the sun was so blindingly intense through the other half. Still, he managed to make out glimpses of what looked like some sort of courtyard or garden outside. Bright green hedges, maybe white flowers. He thought he might have even caught a sparkle, maybe reflecting from a fountain, but he wasn't quite sure. The image was just too fleeting.
So much sensory input.
Absolutely. And on the other side of this long hallway, directly opposite the giant windows, there were a number of wooden doorways. They were inset a few feet from the main corridor. He could clearly see 4, but the hallway just seemed to stretch endlessly, hinting at many, many more further down. Philip quickly figured that this house or mansion or whatever this magnificent structure was, it must be truly gigantic, just based on the immense scale of this one seemingly endless hallway. And he slowly started to advance, walking further and further. But the more he went, the longer the hallway seemed to get, just receding into this impossible distance.
Almost defying normal spatial logic.
Totally. But the true revelation, the point where Philip's whole understanding of reality just utterly transformed, that came next. He noticed something truly strange, a profound shift in the very fabric of his experience. The large glass windows lining the hallway, the ones he'd just been squinting through, they appeared to morph, right before his eyes, into transparent fish ponds.
Fish ponds vertical.
Vertical fish ponds, filled with water that utterly defied gravity, calmly forming this glassy vertical surface. And within these impossible watery windows, fish were just swimming up and down, casually weaving in and out of the algae leaves that were still clinging to the exterior.
Wow, okay. That's different.
Right, and immediately this internal voice, just clear and undeniable, surged through Philip's mind. That's impossible. Am I dreaming? I must be. This is a dream. And there was this sudden, intense rush of energy that flowed over him, like a switch had just been flipped. Then, just as quickly, there was nothing but this calm, profound stillness. He had the clearest, most undeniable understanding that he was indeed dreaming. And this strange pressure pulsed gently in his ears, kind of like the subtle sensation of water flowing through them, confirming this impossible yet certain reality.
And that moment of realization that this is a dream, that's key, isn't it? If we connect this to the bigger picture, Philip's experience isn't just about the bizarre imagery of the dream itself, but its profound aftermath. The sheer clarity of that realization that he was dreaming and the sheer unlikelihood of the fish ponds, it served as a catalyst. It profoundly challenged his very definition of what is real. He woke from it absolutely convinced it was more than just a dream.
Right, that it held some kind of truth beyond just fantasy.
Exactly. And we know from practice he lay in bed for a few more minutes after waking up, trying desperately to fall back asleep, to re-enter that incredible world. But all he could do was think about the dream he had just had. Yet, as he felt it, it just didn't feel like a dream at all. Not in the way he understood dreams, anyway.
It felt like a memory.
Like a real memory. He could almost still feel the sun's rays on his skin, the warmth, that brisk air. The profound stillness of that hallway was still fresh in his mind, its tranquility just lingering. This was completely unlike any dream he had experienced before, precisely because of how incredibly real it was, how present it felt in his waking memory.
And stuck with him.
Oh, absolutely. This extraordinary dream preoccupied his mind throughout the entire morning. His shower took longer than usual, apparently, his thoughts just drifting back to the impossible fish. And as he went about his chores, finishing the sidewalk, weeding a soggy flower bed, raking leaves, his mind was utterly fixated on it. It wasn't so much the peculiar content of the dream that was striking, because he'd certainly had stranger, more fantastical dreams before. We all have, right?
Sure. Weird stuff happens in dreams.
Exactly. What gripped him was how vivid, how immersive, how tangibly real the whole experience had been. Never before had he felt so completely enveloped, so deeply immersed in a dream state. It wasn't just the visions that seemed real, but also those tangible sensations, feeling the sun's rays, the crispness of the air, and even the distinct sound of an old man's voice, which had apparently spoken of starting training to be a lucid dreamer.
The old man.
Yes. And Philip was just utterly bewildered by it all. How had his mind suddenly concocted such a luxurious mansion, a place he was sure he had never seen in reality or in movies or even video games? It all seemed, as he put it, very surreal, really blurring the lines between what he knew to be waking reality and this powerful inner experience.
Yeah. And he was bursting to tell someone. Right, yeah, he was so excited, so full of this need to share it. He apparently couldn't wait to tell his friends, Jack and Cynthia, about it at his birthday party the very next day. Yeah. But he struggled, as I think many of us do when we try to describe these things, to put the sheer vividness into words. He explained that it was very strange, but in a good way, unlike any dream I've ever had. But he kept emphasizing, the thing about this dream is that it felt so real, I just can't explain it. I mean, yes, I know dreams often feel real, but this one was more than that. I know that it was real, but at the same time, I knew it was a dream.
That paradox is so common in these experiences, the simultaneous knowledge of it being a dream and real.
Exactly. He said he could remember every last detail, like feeling the sun just as real as the sun shines today. And of course, that tantalizing mention of an old man who had something to tell me, this figure who seemed to hold the key to understanding this whole profound experience. So what does this all mean then? This isn't just about, cool imagery or a wild story. It's about a felt sense of reality that profoundly transcends typical dream experiences. Why does one dream stand out so profoundly, leaving such a lasting, undeniable impression that it compels someone like Philip to question the very nature of their existence? It raises an incredibly important question, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It raises a crucial question about the fundamental nature of reality itself. And it's a question that Philip's journey eventually leads him to explore through a truly fascinating character, the Metaphysician. Philip eventually encounters this old man, perhaps the same one hinted at in the dream, who doesn't just see him as a dreamer. He recognizes him as a special kind of dreamer, someone poised right on the edge of a much deeper understanding.
The lucid dreamer.
Exactly. The old man explains to Philip that he is a lucid dreamer, a true dreamer. And those who've mastered this state understand that passing through what's known as the first gate of dreaming occurs simply by becoming consciously aware that you are dreaming while you are still within the dream itself. That moment, Philip had.
So the first gate isn't just a fleeting realization like, oh, this is weird, must be a dream. It's more significant. What makes that moment of I'm dreaming so powerful that it's considered a gate rather than just, a moment of simple lucidity? What lies beyond it, and why is that specific awareness such a game changer?
That's a great way to put it. It's a game changer because it marks the conscious redirection of your attention and, critically, your intention. See, most dreams are like watching a movie, right? You're a passive observer, just carried along by whatever narrative unfolds.
Yeah, things just happen to you.
Precisely. But passing the first gate is like suddenly realizing you're in the movie. And not only that, but you can now potentially interact with the script, maybe change the scene, or even decide to explore behind the set, so to speak. It's the activation of choice and conscious intention within the dream state itself. It shifts it from being just a personal, sometimes chaotic, internal narrative to becoming a potentially conscious, purposeful exploration of reality itself. It literally opens the door.
A door to
deeper, more structured forms of dreaming and potentially profound insights. From this point, those who've mastered this know that these are no longer just ordinary dreams. They're conscious passages into other realms, perhaps. And the metaphysician reveals to Philip that his hyper-real dreams, the ones that felt so undeniable, so vivid, they are actually glimpses into alternate instances of reality.
Alternate instances of reality, wow.
Yes. For those truly exploring these profound states, dreams that are bizarre, otherworldly, maybe not based on anything previously seen, heard, or experienced in waking life, these are considered to be actually occurring in a different instance of time and space. Experienced dream masters understand that in these moments, the mind or consciousness breaks free from the usual limitations of the physical body, and it temporarily passes into perhaps a congruent body in an alternate world, or maybe it directly perceives a different layer of existence altogether. This act of breaking through the barrier, as some call it, is the conscious mind bringing its awareness and planting it directly into that dream world, experiencing it just as truly as we experience waking life.
So the waking world isn't the only real one.
That's the core idea. It's well established among those who explore this that our perceived waking reality, this world you see around you right now, we've been conditioned really by society, culture, even science, to believe is unique and absolute, is actually just one in a vast cluster maybe of connected worlds.
The cluster.
Yes. And each of these worlds, these alternate instances, is just as unique, just as absolute, and just as real as our own. We know from practice that there exist innumerable alternate instances of reality where things can be subtly or dramatically different. You might encounter different animals we don't have here, maybe different famous people, different languages, or entirely different historical timelines. Even the fundamental laws of physics and nature, as we understand them, can diverge. This can lead to phenomena that would seem utterly strange, impossible to us, but are completely normal, everyday occurrences in those worlds.
Like, for example?
Well, for instance, the sky might not even be blue in some of these worlds. It could be purple or shimmering or maybe even invisible. Who knows?
That's a powerful claim, though, that these vivid dreams are literally glimpses into other realities. But isn't there a risk here of confusing, just vivid fantasy or our subconscious playing tricks with an actual experience in another world? How does the metaphysician, or how do these experienced practitioners differentiate between a truly outlandish dream cooked up by our own minds and an actual glimpse into another world? This really redefines reality as we know it.
An actual interaction, perhaps, with another instance of reality. It's those dreams that feel more like a memory you haven't lived yet, rather than just a story you've invented in your sleep.
Okay, that distinction makes sense. Still, absolutely fascinating. The idea that our dreams aren't just fantasy, but actual tangible experiences in other realities. But how does this all work? I mean, how do we even begin to grasp the sheer scope of this multiverse, this cluster of connected world? It sounds incredibly complex.
It is complex, definitely. And the metaphysician, recognizing this, offers a truly profound visual explanation to help Philip and us grasp this concept of alternate realities and the dimensions that might govern them. He demonstrated this by reaching out, bringing his thumbs and index fingers together, almost like he's plucking something invisible from the air, then pinching the thin air and pulling his fingers apart in opposite directions. And from this simple gesture, he apparently creates a glowing, transparent green cube that just floats effortlessly in the air in front of them.
Okay, a magic green cube. What does it represent?
Well, advanced practitioners have discovered, or perhaps posit, that all of existence is formed from this infinite flowing energy, pure potential.
Infinite flowing energy forming everything, including us. That sounds incredibly profound. Could you give us a more tangible way to visualize this energy before it even becomes a green box? Are we talking about something like, I don't know, quantum foam or something even more fundamental, almost primordial?
That's a good analogy. Think of it perhaps like water, but in its most raw, unformed state. Before it's liquid or ice or steam, in its pure energetic form, maybe it's like an unformed vapor, invisible, intangible, just pure potentiality. So the green box in this visualization represents a small contained portion where that energy begins to condense, maybe, Perhaps it coalesces into something like a cloud where the flow starts to take on observable form, where the very fabric of existence can begin to be perceived.
Okay.
And within that box that contained energy field, a tiny holographic image of Philip appears in the center when the metaphysician gently touches the cube. And the cube itself undulates slightly, like a disturbed bubble, reacting to Philip's subtle presence within that field.
So the cube contains potential reality.
In a sense. He then explains that our familiar reality has 3 lower vibrational spatial dimensions, what we commonly know as 3D space. X, Y, and Z. Length, width, depth. It's well established that these dimensions are perpendicular to each other, defining the space of everything we perceive physically. And this 3D space is where that flowing energy slows down enough, you could say it vibrates at a lower frequency, to coalesce and form matter. Everything around us, our clothes, the air we breathe, the chair you're sitting on right now, even our very bodies, is just energy condensed into physical form, vibrating at a certain rate.
So everything is energy.
Essentially. And as he explains this, the green cube fills with a detailed scene of Philip back in his classroom. This represents his present moment, his here and now, but it encompasses not just him, but Earth, the solar system, even the vast expanse of the Milky Way galaxy, all contained within these 3 spatial dimensions of the cube.
Okay, so 3D space is where energy slows down, condenses into the tangible world we interact with. It's the now, the here.
Yeah.
But then the metaphysician takes the cube and stretches it, makes it long and rectangular. What's the significance of that stretch? How does that relate to something we all experience constantly?
Right.
Time.
That stretch is absolutely crucial, because it represents the introduction of the 4th dimension, space-time. Imagine that entire classroom scene of Philip not just as a static picture, but as a single frame in a continuous, flowing cosmic movie.
Okay.
This stretched rectangle now holds all the frames of that movie. Every single moment, from the Big Bang, let's say, right through to the present, and indeed far into the future, we know from practice, or at least it's conceptualized, that all events, all moments, exist within this rectangular representation. Not sequentially necessarily as we perceive them, but simultaneously within this larger structure.
Like a film reel laid out.
Exactly like that. Each moment in time along this longest axis is like a unique 3D frame of the video, or a slice of the reel. Now, while our minds are generally designed to exist in one moment at a time, moving through the sequence frame by frame. And the 4th dimension is perpendicular to the lower 3, making it impossible for us to perceive all of it at once from within our 3D perspective. That doesn't mean it isn't still all there, laid out like an immense cosmic scroll.
Wow. Okay.
So the scene in the green cube then zooms in, focusing on Philip's lifetime specifically. It shows Earth spiraling through space and then Philip's own long, meandering trail around his hometown, from his birth at one end of the rectangle right up to him sitting in his desk in the present moment. This trail is described as the body's path through the 4th dimension. But crucially, the metaphysician emphasizes something profound. Your body is not you.
Not you.
Not entirely. He points out that none of the atoms we were born with remain in our adult bodies. Our physical form is constantly replacing itself, rebuilding. It's a continuous flow. The you that is truly you, the unchanging essence, the observer, is described as a ray of energy we call consciousness. A speck of consciousness swimming through a sea of pure energy.
A speck of consciousness.
Yes, and to illustrate this, a bright beam of pure white light follows Philip's path from birth to the present within the stretched cube, representing this consciousness, this observing self, moving through time.
Okay, that's a powerful image. Consciousness as a beam of light moving through the body's path in time. But for many people, the idea that our self, our consciousness, is separate from our physical body, especially our brain. That goes against decades of scientific understanding that ties consciousness directly to brain activity. How does the metaphysician, or this perspective, bridge that gap? How do you reconcile these seemingly opposing views for someone new to this way of thinking?
That's a really important point. And this perspective wouldn't necessarily say the brain isn't involved. It's crucial. But rather than being the source of consciousness, the brain is seen more as an interface, a highly sophisticated receiver and transmitter.
Like the radio analogy again?
Exactly like the radio analogy. The music isn't created inside the radio. The radio merely tunes into the signal, the broadcast. that is already present in the airwaves everywhere. Similarly, from this viewpoint, the brain is seen as tuning into a much larger, perhaps ubiquitous field of consciousness. So, when we break free in a lucid dream, for instance, it's not that the brain stops functioning, not at all, but perhaps consciousness temporarily operates outside its usual physical limitations, accessing information or experiences directly from that broader energetic field, rather than solely through the brain's normal sensory filters. The brain is the tuner, the processor, the interface, but maybe not the ultimate source of the broadcast itself. Does that make sense?
It does. As a model, it shifts the perspective fundamentally.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the body's path in 3D space stretched out through the fourth dimension of time with consciousness as a beam of light moving along it. Now,
Yeah.
this is where you said things truly become mind-bending. The metaphysician leans in, eyebrows raised, ready to reveal the true mystery of the future, shattering our usual ideas about linear time and fixed destiny.
Yes, exactly. Because the future, that's where the real mystery and perhaps our true power lies. Remember that bright beam of white light representing Philip's consciousness? His observing you. Well, it ends abruptly at the present moment within the cube, pointing towards something called the assemblage point. Now, those who actively explore these states have discovered, or propose, that the very next moment in the future, the next frame of our reality, is not predetermined. It's not set in stone. It is only brought into being, only actually determined once we choose to observe it, once our consciousness interacts with the potential.
We choose to observe it.
Yes. And as the metaphysician explains this, more green rectangles, each representing a distinct potential timeline, shoot out from the end of the original one, fanning out like an opening book or branching paths. And that white beam of consciousness, instead of just stopping at the present, it spreads out like an unfocused flashlight beam through this whole array of new rectangular spaces.
So it diffuses into possibilities.
Precisely. This, he reveals, represents the infinite number of parallel timelines or potential realities that exist in the fifth dimension.
The fifth dimension, infinite parallel timelines.
Each new green rectangle is a different timeline, a different potential future that one could move into. And this shift, this selection, occurs with every choice we make, every decision, every single observation, effectively moving our assemblage point within this fifth dimension of possibilities. By the very act of observing, of consciously choosing where to place our focus, that diffuse beam of light becomes focused, like a laser pointer, passing through our assemblage point. And that focused observation collapses the potential into our specific reality, the one we then experience as solid and undeniable. Philip, in this vision, observes himself not as a single fixed line going forward, but momentarily as a long, undulating trail blurring across multiple potential timelines simultaneously, until his focus, his choice, collapses it back into one path.
Okay, wait, so
Yeah.
if our choices, even just our observations, literally collapse energy into our reality, does that mean we are far more powerful co-creators of our world than we ever imagined? What does this imply for our sense of responsibility or even our ability to, say, manifest desired outcomes? This is a profound statement and honestly a lot to take in.
It is profound. And yes, exactly. That's the core implication.
Yeah.
This isn't just about the big life choices, career or relationships. It potentially applies to every micro decision, every fleeting thought, every emotional reaction. Every time you choose how to interpret a situation or what emotion to focus on or feed, you might be subtly shifting that assemblage point, nudging your path through those potential timelines.
Wow.
The fundamental insight here is that you're not just passively reacting to a fixed, predetermined reality unfolding around you. You are actively constructing, moment by moment, the very next instant of your experience through your conscious and subconscious observations and choices. And yes, this completely changes how you might approach things like intention, being present, even your perception of luck or chance. It suggests an immense power. And with that, as you said, comes a potentially profound responsibility for the reality we weave.
Okay, but let's pin down this assemblage point. What is it exactly? Is it a physical point, a metaphorical one?
It's described more as, think of it as the point through which your experience passes, the focal lens of your consciousness. The very next moment in the future, before it solidifies into what we perceive as reality, is visualized as a cloud of energy with varying probability, a field of potential. Philip sees multiple hazy versions of himself in different positions just ahead of his present self, each branching off into this ever-expanding cone of overlapping possible future timelines.
A cone of possibilities.
Right, and we know from quantum physics, don't we, that literally everything at its most fundamental level is understood as waves of vibrating energy, not just solid particles. It behaves as both. depending on observation. So in the fifth dimension, as conceptualized here, there's this probability field, this vast ocean of potentiality where energy could collapse into matter, into a specific outcome. But it isn't until your consciousness make an observation, until your awareness focuses through your assemblage point, that the energy coalesces. It solidifies into the physical reality you see, hear, and feel.
So my observation makes it real for me.
In essence, yes. Your entire existence, every single aspect of it, potentially changes based on your choices, your focus, your observation. Ultimately, the assemblage point is the lens through which we experience life. It's the precise point where our mind assembles all the raw sensory data, all the energetic input into a coherent, conscious experience. But maybe it's even more than just a lens. Perhaps it's the very point through which the infinite energy of the multiverse, of all potentiality, passes. And for a brief, incredibly powerful moment, the present moment, we have conscious influence, maybe even control over that flowing energy to assemble our reality from an infinite spectrum of possibilities.
That's huge.
It is. And the Metaphysician notes this is a profound message. It requires time, contemplation, and probably direct experience through things like lucid dreaming or deep meditation to truly understand and integrate into your life. It's a lot to take in, isn't it? This realization can be incredibly liberating, knowing you have this power, but also, frankly, maybe a little daunting. The sheer scale of possibility means that every single moment, every thought could be an active ingredient in the recipe of your reality. It's a profound responsibility, absolutely, but also an immense potential power.
That idea that our existence is constantly shifting based on our choices, our observations, it makes you think twice about complaining about the weather, doesn't it? Because maybe in some adjacent possibility you chose sunshine. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Deep dive indeed. Multiple dimensions, the mechanics of reality, consciousness, the assemblage point, really shattering our preconceived notions of what's possible. But the question that started Philip's journey, and ours today, still remains. How does this absolutely breathtaking vision of the multiverse explain why his dream, why that specific, seemingly subjective experience in the hallway felt more real, more vivid, and ultimately more true than his normal waking life?
It connects directly back to what we discussed earlier about consciousness as pure energy and the role of our physical senses. Experienced dream masters understand that our normal waking life filters experience through our physical senses: eyes, ears, touch, smell, taste. These senses act like highly sophisticated filters, don't they? Narrowing our perception down to only what the physical body can handle, or perhaps only the specific slice of reality that is most conducive to survival and functioning in this 3D world we're accustomed to.
Filters for survival.
Exactly. It's essential for navigating our physical environment. But in dreams, especially lucid ones, those filters are often gone, or at least significantly lessened, dialed down. Consciousness then has the potential to perceive reality more directly, maybe as pure energy, in its raw, unfiltered form. So Philip's dream wasn't necessarily an illusion, a mere construct of his imagination playing tricks. It could have been an experience of another, unfiltered layer of reality, uncloaked, perceived directly by his consciousness without the usual intermediaries.
So less filtering means more real.
In a sense, yes. More direct perception. And the Metaphysician actually confirms this profound truth later on, telling Philip directly, quite powerfully, "It feels real because it is real, my boy. Have you ever woken up and had the same feeling as when you were dreaming? That is because it really happened to you."
Wow. That's unambiguous.
It really is. It's presented not just as poetic language, but as a statement reflecting direct experience from this perspective. And while our waking life operates predominantly in 3 spatial and 1 temporal dimension, as we discussed, in dreams, particularly these hyper-real ones, perception might actually expand into higher dimensions. Now, these aren't necessarily different places in the way we usually think of them, like other planets or galaxies. Think of them more as layers of space-time where reality exists as energetic potentiality, as raw information, as different vibrational states. Now, it's probably important to understand this isn't quite the multiverse you might see in a Marvel movie or Rick and Morty, with countless exact copies of yourself living slightly different lives out there.
Right, not infinite Phillips doing slightly different things.
Yeah. Not necessarily like that. It's perhaps more subtle. Think of it more like that radio dial again. When you turn into a different station, you're not creating a new radio tower or a new broadcast. You're just accessing a different frequency of an existing broadcast field that's already there.
Okay.
Dreams, especially lucid ones, might allow our consciousness to temporarily tune into these adjacent frequencies, these other layers of potential reality, where things are subtly or dramatically different in their energetic state rather than being fixed physical copies. It's about experiencing the fuller spectrum of what reality truly is, beyond the narrow band our waking senses usually pick up.
So dreams let us change the channel.
That's a great way to put it. And this is precisely why these dreams can feel more real. Because they sometimes grant us access to perceive more of reality, more of the underlying energetic tapestry of existence than we typically do while awake with all our filters running. And what's truly fascinating, really mind-bending here, is the implication that follows from that. It suggests that our ordinary waking state, the reality we take for granted as absolute and complete, might actually be a more limited perception of reality.
Waking life is the limited version.
Potentially. A
Perfect.
filtered, narrowed view, absolutely necessary for physical navigation and survival, yes, but maybe not the complete picture, not by a long shot. Dreams, then, especially these vivid, lucid ones, become a potential gateway. A gateway to a richer, more expansive, and perhaps more fundamental truth about existence. They are not merely an escape from reality, but potentially a way to delve into a deeper, broader reality.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, what does this all mean for you, the listener? Why should we care if dreams are real in this different, perhaps deeper way? Is this just an interesting philosophical concept to ponder, or does it have practical implications for our daily lives?
Well, this understanding, if we embrace it even a little, deeply suggests that dreams are not merely less real than waking life. They might actually hint at a deeper, truer reality, a more expansive understanding of existence itself. Consider it like, stepping out of Plato's cave, moving from just seeing shadows on the wall to experiencing the vivid, maybe even blinding sunlight of true perception.
That's a powerful analogy. This perspective posits that they are not just random neuron firings and potentially purposeful experiences, meaningful glimpses. They might reveal how the multiverse or this broader reality truly operates, layered, alive, interactive, and maybe far more responsive to our own consciousness than we typically assume. Phillip's journey, starting from that one profound dream, moving from total bewilderment to incredible insight thanks to the Metaphysician, it shows us a possible path. By consciously paying attention to our dreams, by maybe considering their inherent reality, we might begin to glimpse the deeper currents of existence and the true nature of reality for ourselves.
It implies the answers might be closer than we think.
Exactly. Your dreams right now may already be showing you truths about reality that you simply can't see or perceive while you're awake with all the filters up. They are potentially a profound source of insight, self-discovery, and indeed maybe even a pathway to greater personal awareness and power. And this source is available to everyone, every night, if you just know how to look, how to pay attention, and perhaps more importantly, how to feel the truth of them when they happen.
Which really raises an important and I think incredibly exciting question for each of us, doesn't it? If dreams are truly glimpses into a more fundamental, more expansive reality, what incredible potential, what profound self-knowledge, what transformative insights might lie untapped within our own nightly experiences, just waiting there for us to consciously engage with them.
Absolutely. So just to recap our deep dive today, we've explored how those hyper-real dreams you sometimes have, the ones that stick with you, can feel more real precisely because, from this perspective, they are real. They represent a different mode of experiencing reality, perhaps unfiltered perceptions of pure energy, conscious glimpses into higher dimensions, and alternate possibilities. So we invite you, our listener, to think back. Think back to the most vivid, the most undeniable dream you've ever had. Did it change you in some subtle way? Did it stick with you in a way that regular memories just don't?
That feeling is the clue.
It really is. Maybe consider starting a dream journal tonight. Or just pay a little more attention when you wake up. Pay special attention to the ones that feel hyper-real, the ones that carry that undeniable charge, that feeling of more. They may be showing you far more about the true nature of existence and your own incredible place within it than you ever realized was possible. Those dreams that feel too real to ignore, they might just be glimpses of reality's deeper, more magnificent layers, patiently waiting for you, for your conscious awareness to explore.
So make sure you like, follow, share all that good stuff so you don't miss our next exploration into these incredible realms.